So I'm going through the boxing schedule for December, and Eddie Hearn did say there is going to be one pay-per-view via DAZN in December. I looked at what was on the schedule that I've got on TalkSport, and the only fight I could assume that they could make pay-per-view for next month is CHISORA versus Parker, but people are pointing out to me that it's Murata versus Triple G. That wasn't on the schedule, and if that's so, I'll stand corrected.
You're living dangerously.
Now let's talk about CHISORA and Parker too. Now the undercard, a lot of people are seeing it as the sink or swim undercard because Eddie Hearn and the MATCHROOM matchmakers have pitched Joshua BUATSI in with Maxim Vlasov, who I saw challenge for the vacant WBO title against Joe Smith Jr. just a few months back. And I have no doubt that Maxim Vlasov won the fight. He didn't get the result, but I have no doubt he won the fight. He's previously lost to Krzysztof Głowacki in 2018. That was at Cruiser, obviously, and he's lost to the likes of Gilberto Ramirez in 2015 via unanimous decision. Now, he's very experienced. His record stands now 45 wins, 26 knockouts, 4 losses, never been stopped. Very capable fighter. He moves well, is very relaxed, a big light heavy. And I think a lot of people are sensing banana skin by the way they're reacting to the fight. This could derail the Joshua BUATSI train. For those who are saying that BUATSI is too inexperienced to fight Bivol, if he get through Vlasov successfully, well, they can only be looking for world title fights after that. There can't be no more learning fights after that. It can only be world title fights, really. You don't take these type of fights and then, oh, I'm going to take 8-rounders and 10-rounders for more experience. When you got the backing of DAZN and MATCHROOM behind you, you go for world titles. People are fighting for world titles on less of a resume than that. Well, Virgil Hunter must think he's ready. A lot of people are not so sure about that. Against Bolotniks, he showed very good punching power, but he also got tagged quite a bit as well. If he knocks Vlasov out, and I'm going to say this, and I don't care what the backlash is, even though he's yet to prove it at world title level yet, I believe BUATSI hits just as hard as Beterbiev or perhaps anyone at a weight class. If he knocks Vlasov out, that's extremely impressive. He would have arrived on the world scene. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves yet. This is a very tough opponent. And then on the same bill, you would have thought, okay, that's one risk too much for one card. They've put Leron Richards, newly signed to MATCHROOM. He's had a couple of fights with MATCHROOM. He was with Frank Warren. 15-0, only 3 stoppages. They're pitching him in with Carlos Gongora, who I've seen on a couple of occasions. Very capable. Once again, good mover. Well, he's got that kind of old man movement. Very relaxed style. Very methodical. Technician. And he's 20-0 with 15 KOs. He's from Ecuador. He took apart Ali Akhmadov, who a lot of the Eastern European enthusiasts were, they were raving about him. They were. I believe Akhmadov was a part of the Triple G stable. And he outclassed him. Took him apart. I was going to say there could be a couple of upsets, but would they really be upsets? Would it be far-fetched to say that either Leron or Joshua BUATSI may lose their unbeaten records on the same night? Well, as long as the matchmakers didn't make a mistake, you got to give them credit, you got to give Eddie Hearn credit, and you got to give the boxers credit for stepping up like that. There's a lot of boxers right now with interim belts and championship belts and whatnot, playing it a lot safer than BUATSI and Leron, in all truth. People keep talking up UFC, and I guess if you like it, then you're going to say it's better than boxing. So why is it then their top stars are always chasing around boxing's top stars? Canelo shows little interest in Usman's challenge. Feels UFC star is chasing a payday. So they're talking about Kamaru Usman, who is regarded as the pound-for-pound the best mixed martial arts fighter currently. He's taking on Colby Covington this Saturday, while Canelo is attempting to become undisputed 168-pound champion. He's talking about Canelo's strengths, his strengths, but you're not a boxer. You're like, that name means nothing in the boxing world. It means a lot in the UFC world. It means nothing in the boxing world. No one is queuing up to see that fight. And then we have Junior Dos Santos. Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, one day I'll fight these guys and I'll beat them up. He said he's already done it in UFC, and now he's ready to fight the biggest names in boxing. Now, he's a former UFC heavyweight champion, Junior Dos Santos, and he's apparently making the jump to become a pro boxer. Well, steady on there, old chap. We've got a few journeymen who want to see if you're about that life before you even get near a ranked contender. Nobody's asking for no Dos Santos versus Wilder, Dos Santos versus Joshua or Fury, or Usyk. Nobody's asking for it. So you're going to have to go in there, roll out some trial horses, which I have no doubt he'll be able to do. Then we'll see how you do against some of the more experienced journeymen in the game. And that's when shit's going to get real. There'll be a lot of boxing fans rooting for you not to succeed, because it's going to look like, oh, well, you know, this is what a UFC/MMA fighter can do to a boxer. So now we know that MMA is the superior combat sport. So you're going to have to earn our respect as boxing fans. You're going to have to earn it. So good luck.
I'm going to tell you why I'm mad.
This one kind of came from left, didn't it? Anthony Dirrell, I hate Caleb Plant. He thinks he's the shit, and he's not. He's fought one guy. Now, Dirrell is on the undercard of the main event, which features Caleb Plant versus Saul Canelo Alvarez. That's for the undisputed 168-pound crown. Dirrell is taking on Marcos Hernandez. Now, Dirrell has never sparred Caleb Plant, but he said he's grew tired of Plant a long time ago. He claims that he hates Plant. He said he's focused on his own 10-rounder on the undercard. He said, I hate him. I don't like him. And hate is a strong word, but I really hate the guy. I'm dead serious. I just don't like him. I think he thinks he's the shit, and he's not. He's fought one guy, Oskatagi, and beat him. I was commentating for FS1 for that fight, but that's it. He's a good boxer. He has speed with no power, but I think he needs to come back down to reality. Now, in 2019, Plant won the IBF belt against Jose Oskatagi. Dropped him a couple of times, en route to a 12-round points victory. Dirrell says there hasn't been a particular instance that caused him to hate Caleb so immensely. He said it's simply a gut feeling that he shares with other fighters. I just don't like him. He said Benavidez doesn't like him. I mean, is it us or him? You've got to ask yourself that anyway, because me and Benavidez is fine. He respects Benavidez. He's a tremendous fighter. He's a great fighter, a great champion. Well, he's not a champion. And he says he's not an arsehole. At the end of the day, you know he's a real down-to-earth guy. Dirrell apparently developed a mutual respect for Benavidez during and after their WBC title fight, which Benavidez won by a 9th round knockout. Was it a knockout or stoppage? That was in September 2019. Dirrell expects Alvarez to beat Plant, his disdain for Plant notwithstanding. Dirrell doesn't entirely discount Plant's chances of pulling off an upset, though. He said it's boxing. He said he's not going to say Caleb has a chance, but it's boxing and anything can happen. But he believes Canelo has too many tools, but ultimately he doesn't care about the fight, he cares about his fight. There must be more to it than that you just hate the guy. I mean, is Caleb the first arrogant, perhaps narcissistic boxer that Dirrell's ever met? It's not that uncommon. Caleb's resume is very average, but then again, Dirrell, he's fought a lot of people, but how much bodies does he have on his record? Not that many. Sakio Bika's one of his best wins. Caleb Trax is one of his best wins. Dennis Dowling, Avni Yildirim, he's lucky to get that. Perhaps envious of Caleb's $10 million payday. I won't blame him. It's a lot of money.
I'm going to tell you why I'm mad.
Natasha Jonas has left MATCHROOM and headed over to Boxer XX. So let me see. That's Natasha, Callum Johnson. They've both left MATCHROOM. Callum Smith has left Joe Gallagher. So I'm guessing now Eddie Hearn is Joe Gallagher stress-free right now. Or have I forgot somebody? And even today, like, Joe was talking to Pep Talk. They got a new channel, Pep Talk Boys. Look for it, Pep Talk Boys. In memory of the honorary founding member, Pro Bees. They got a new channel. And Joe trains Marcus Morrison, who's fighting Zach Parker on Saturday on a Frank Warren card. So there was a press conference. I didn't see it. And apparently, with Zach being 21-0 and ranked pretty high in a couple of the sanctioning bodies, or at least one of them, and Marcus Morrison 24-4, they're talking up Zach because he's the house fighter, so to speak. Marcus Morrison is supposed to be the opponent, you know. Marcus don't normally fight at super middle, and this is Zach's weight, and it's supposed to be Zach's victory. Joe got into a strop. They're talking up Zach Parker like it's going to be one-sided, like we're just turning up to get rolled over. And I didn't see the press conference. Maybe he has a point, but I could just imagine Joe making a big deal over nothing, really. Because that's what he does. And in all fairness, he's arguing for his fighters, right? And we shouldn't really condemn him for that, but damn, he's annoying. Then further down the interview, Eddie blames me for everything right now, doesn't he? I'm surprised he didn't blame me for Joshua losing. And with Natasha signing over to Boxer, XX, one day she'll tell her story about Eddie. And then apparently, Eddie's signing up all the lightweights and 140-pounders so he can freeze Natasha out of a title shot. This is what he's coming out and saying. And then when you think, okay, the Eddie diatribes are finished, then later in the interview, some promoters, they want you to take a fight for a couple of quid. And if you don't agree, I say, oh, God. If I was Eddie, I wouldn't respond. Just sleep good that you got rid of Joe. So what's up with Scott FITZGERALD, former British light middleweight champion? Well, there was these pictures that have been circulating around online, and a lot of people ain't going to like the fact that I'm posting them up, but I'm going to post them up. And a lot of people are thinking he's fallen on hard times. He's apparently sleeping outside his beloved Wheat Sheaf, which I believe is a public house, some kind of establishment like that. He was sleeping on the floor. His clothes looked a little disheveled, but he's saying he had an exhausting day. He had a 10-15 minute straightener with an absolute rabbit of a Southpaw Traveller half an hour before on Ashton Park, I'm assuming in Preston. His trainer, Jimmy Moon, said he needs help, but he needs to want the help. He's currently 15-0. He made a comeback, was it this year? At super middle after going through rehab. It looked like he turned a corner, but you just don't know with Fitzy, do you? A lot of people like Ellie Scottney and former pro Dale Evans said, I really hope someone saves Scott FITZGERALD. There's not enough support out there for professional fighters. But it's not just professional fighters falling on hard times out there and losing their way. So he has to want to save himself. This is his journey. Maybe he'll get to a point where it can get no worse and then he'll turn it around. We'll see. After the pictures circulated, he's saying, don't kick up a fuss, it's nothing. He was just having a scrap and just having a sleep after the scrap. But obviously, most people believe that he's back on whatever substances he was taking. So, Teofimo Lopez is on the Tyson Fury fake resume booster program. Vasyl Lomachenko would beat all those guys. He would beat Tank, he would devour Haney, he would beat Shakur. Even though Loma's on his way out, he's still got enough to beat these guys. This is what you call squeezing as much as possible out of a win as you can. And I can understand boxers doing it, but when the fans go along with that, and the media, now I'm not saying Loma is ducking them guys, because Tank won't fight Loma in saying that. But what I'm not getting, and even though I don't box, is how can you think your win was so great that it carries over and defeats the rest of your weight class without you fighting them guys or Lomachenko fighting them guys? You see, it's hard for me to digest. You see, a lot of people, these people like complaining about boxing. That's because you weren't watching Leonard, Hearns, Duran, and Benitez. You weren't watching how competitive they were, You wasn't watching that. You wasn't watching Marvin Hagler clear out the middleweight division or Tyson clear out the heavyweight division. You question their resumes and you weren't even there. You don't even know what the climate was like, what the fighters were doing, but you're questioning their resumes like you was around. You wasn't watching boxing when being a lineal champion or an undisputed champion actually meant something. You wasn't watching. I was. Big up Larry Holmes. He turned 72 the other day. And when you reflect back on his resume, he's got Witherspoon on there, controversial. Carl the Truth Williams, controversial. Norton, close fight. But look at the names on there. Hercules Weaver, Ronaldo Snipes, Bone Crusher. Later on, after his reign was over, he fought Ray Mercer and beat him. You know, all these motherfuckers. Yeah, let's educate these boxing fans about Mike Tyson and his weak resume. Well, let me tell you about Mike Tyson's weak resume. Mike wouldn't have to say, you know something, all of these contenders couldn't beat Tony Tucker because I beat him. You know why? Because he fought all of them contenders. So he doesn't have to boost his resume by sucking the life out of his one victory against Tony Tucker. He doesn't have to do that because he cleared out the weight class. Now, for whatever reason, Bob didn't have a rematch clause for Lomachenko when he lost to Teofimo. But at the same time, right, not denying George Kambosos his title shot, but if Lopez really wanted to, he could have got that rematch. And they would have said, yo, George, take a little step aside and let them fight again and you'll be next. But he didn't do that. He wanted to run as far away from the Lomachenko win as possible, but there he is, holding it up like it's the greatest thing ever. Back in the day, oh, you don't think I beat him good enough? And they would have did it to say, yeah, because that's the best fight out there for them. Why not do it again? But all he wants to do is suck the life out of that win from Lomachenko. Lomachenko would have beat Duran, Chavez, Benny Leonard, Pernell Whitaker. I'm the greatest ever. Absolute nonsense. So Britain have had some very good boxers, great boxers, who were hampered by the colour bar. The colour bar in British boxing ran from 1911 till 1948. You had the great Manchester middleweight, Len Johnson. He wasn't allowed to fight for the British title. The British Boxing Board of Control didn't recognise his losing fight against Len Harvey as a British title fight. It was billed as a British title fight, but they didn't recognise that. He had beaten Len Harvey previously over 20 rounds. He's got knockout victories over the likes of Ted Kid Lewis, one of the greater British fighters. Mike Tyson actually said probably the greatest British fighter ever, Ted Kid Lewis. And Mike knows his shit. And then there's one guy I found out about recently on Facebook. I want to big up Reese. His name is Cuthbert Taylor. He represented Wales in the 1928 Olympics, but suffered under the British Boxing Board of Control's colour bar. The rule was, and this is the British Boxing Board of Control, fighters have to have 2 white parents to compete for the British title. Born in 1909 to a father of Caribbean descent and a white Welsh mother, the British Boxing Board of Control said Taylor was not white enough to be British. Taylor died in 1977 in Merthyr Tydfil, Wales. There's a memorial that was unveiled on Saturday at the courthouse in Merthyr Tydfil, where Taylor used to train, to mark Black History Month. A plaque states the boxer was denied the chance to succeed because of the colour of his skin. Merthyr MP Gerald Jones also used the opportunity to call for an official apology. Jones led a debate in the Commons last year on historical discrimination in boxing and used it to underline the remarkable talent of Taylor. He told the Commons, due to the simple fact that his parents were of different ethnic backgrounds, Cuthbert Taylor would never have the recognition and success at professional level that his remarkable talent deserved. So he raised the matter in Parliament last week. He said this is blatantly racist, discriminatory, shameful policy, prevented many people from achieving their potential, and unbelievably, the British Boxing Board of Control has yet to apologise. Jones has also asked the organisation to undertake work promoting the role non-white boxers played in the sport's history. But yet, the Triple BC had still not apologised or responded to requests for comment at the time of writing. Of course they're going to bury their head in the sand. Look at the amount of black fighters that Britain have produced and have made Britain a name in the boxing world. I wonder how much black people they've had on the board since its inception till now. That'd be an interesting conversation piece, wouldn't it? Alan Taylor, the boxer's grandson, said he was sickened to his stomach by the board's treatment of his grandfather. He added that the board's attitude meant that he advised his 2 grandchildren, who both box, to never mention their black roots or connection to Taylor. Cuthbert Taylor, he was a bantamweight and fought all the way up to lightweight. He had 250 official bouts, 151 wins, 22 draws, 69 defeats between 1928 and 1947. Yet, boxing historian Gareth Jones said Taylor's career was likely to have been significantly more extensive than that, and would have even involved fighting two 12-round bouts in the same day. See, because they're not counting the fights that he had on the boxing booths. Him and his father, Charlie, were fighting on the boxing booths as well. In 1935, Cuthbert Taylor, an American world champion lightweight, Freddie Miller, sold out Liverpool's Anfield Stadium in a charity fight to raise funds for the victims of the Gresford pit disaster near Wrexham, which claimed the lives of 266 miners. More facts about the colour bar in British boxing. In 1911, when Winston Churchill was Home Secretary, before he became Prime Minister, he banned interracial boxing matches so white fighters would not be seen losing to black fighters. In that same year, Lancashire promoter James White announced a championship boxing match at Earl's Court, London, on October the 2nd. It pitted the first black heavyweight champion, Jack Johnson, to take on the British champion, Billy Wells, or Bombardier. Billy Wells was his nickname. A purse of $8,000, which would be $800,000 today, would be split 75% for Johnson, 25% for Billy Wells. Controversy erupted. Lord Stanhope declared it wrong for whites to attack blacks and vice versa, fearing repercussions in the colonies. What he meant by that is when Jack Johnson beat Tommy Burns, they had to suppress the film footage and the news from reaching the colonies because the oppressed people of colour were getting emboldened by hearing that Johnson had beaten this white champion. And there were uprisings because of that. The fight was then vetoed, and it didn't happen. Winston Churchill vetoed the fight. When the colour bar was officially broken, Dick Turpin, the brother of Randolph Turpin, became the first official black British champion. The first unofficial black British champion was Andrew Jepter. Dick Turpin, he beat Vince Hawkins' 15-round decision at Villa Park, Aston Villa's ground, in 1948. 40,000 people turned up to see that. 3 years later, his younger brother, Randy Turpin, became the first black British world champion, defeating Sugar Ray Robinson at Earl's Court in 1951 for the world middleweight title. In 1970, my good friend, R.I.P. Alex, my good friend's dad, Bunny Sterling, became the first immigrant to win a British title, born in Jamaica in 1970, defeating Mark Rowe for the British middleweight title. And then Bunny Johnson, in 1975, Jamaican-born, became the first immigrant to win, I believe the first immigrant to win the British heavyweight title, taking out Danny McClinden in 9. In 1979, the first immigrant, born in Antigua, Maurice Hope, he became the first immigrant to win a world title from this country. He went to Italy and defeated Rocky Mattoli at light middle. Now, some people don't like, I don't know what it is, you discussing these things, they get uncomfortable, but it's important to my channel that I bring this to light, little education. It's supposed to enhance, not divide. Peace.